ones, then they go.
I feel like I'm going to have to move up on the story, Lydia.
Oh, fine. Yeah.
So she's been retired. So they,
You come home, you destroy it.
yeah, well, they.
Oh, I had to hand it over here.
Sure, there's a way of wiping it clean.
Oh, is this a real security thing?
Yeah, truly. Megan,
Oh
come
my
on.
God. I'm not up with the spyware.
Yes.
What happens when you get to that?
SAS
I
was
had to
here
go
last
with a
week.
different-
Oh, different phone, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, we're ready.
I was about to do that story. It's my good.
Postpone it then. So welcome everyone to our meeting, our inaugural meeting of the Climate Change and Sustainability Strategic Priorities Subcommittee. So we start with our karakia. So we want to join in, please. Whakataka taho, ki te uru, whakataka taho, ki te tonga. Kia mā, kina, kina, ki uta, kia mā, tātata, ki pai. E hiki ana, e tura, e tio, e luka, e hopu, tihei mauriro. So we have no apologies for today. Anyone got some extraordinary business they want to identify? Nope. So our report, first thing on our we need to do is elect a deputy chairperson. Do I have some nominations, please?
I would like to put my name forward for deputy.
Very good.
Please.
We have a seconder for that. Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there any other nominations? No. So Lydia is been elected as our deputy chairperson. You. Okay, so we have other points that we need to do. So adopts the terms of reference for the subcommittee as confirmed by the full council on.
Well, I'm happy to move
voting.
B, C, D and E all together if you like.
So everyone's happy with the terms of reference? Just we'll start.
Do need to confirm meeting cycle reoccurrence.
Oh, yes, there was two in B, there is two.
Meeting cycle is still to be determined.
They didn't highlight. So meeting cycle. So how often do we want to meet? Weekly, monthly?
Daily.
Daily, okay.
Just, I guess,
It's open 24/7.
wider. So I think for the housing and urban development one, we're looking around about 2 monthly schedule, but we're still to determine that at the 4th of December. Given the strategic nature of this type of work program, meeting on a monthly or a fortnightly, not really going to have much content there. So nothing more often than 2 monthly is what I'd recommend.
Yep, I think that sounds good. And if we need to, I'm sure we can add extra meetings if it warrants it. So
Do these documents represent 2 monthly?
Therese made this.
It's monthly, so that's just an example, and then the other one will be what was presented to council, and that would be every 2 months. Okay. Yeah.
You've put both on the table, Therese.
I did.
Is it? Yeah. It might be quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly is not a bad option because then we'd have more at the meetings.
well, it depends on what.
Bring something forward that's more urgent.
Yeah, well, that's it's just to make sure we have the flexibility to be able to call meetings when we need them, if we need extra ones.
But wouldn't it be more advantageous to go the other way where we're quarterly meetings and then we pull on the extra meetings as they're needed,
Yeah, I think
rather
that,
than just force a 2 monthly for the sake of it.
that's where I'm sort of coming from. I'm not sure about quarterly. So the other committees, what are they meeting as, Therese?
Local water and rail will do
Oh, you might-
monthly at the start, and then I think the other two, as Robert has just pointed out, they will still decide at their 4th
Yeah.
and 11th of December meetings.
I think
That's why we've got these two calendars in front of you. You're the first committee to look at it for monthly meetings to see what it will look like, or the other one where you'll have quarterly.
Yeah. Sorry. Right, I see.
What do you think, Lydia? You,
I just wonder in the sake of what our diaries look like, whether you had it 2 monthly and you can always
Skip one.
cancel it if there's nothing warrants being in there. And I just think about, if we're quarterly and then to try and add a meeting and, our schedules fill up fairly quickly.
no, that sounds like a good idea because when we should be able to, from one, by having 2 monthly, we'll probably get an idea of that meeting, whether we actually in 2 months we can have that or not, or move it to something else.
It's easier to cancel a meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
very good. No, but it's a good question to ask Elizabeth. We need to be thinking about how we're doing it. So meeting cycles 2 monthly.
So these not set in stone.
That one's the month.
So in our responsibilities, does everyone read that to see that you're happy with? Just confirm that. So it's page 10. Ensure the council's policy commitment to reducing greenhouse gases is given effect. Assist in partnership with others in building district-wide consensus about the importance of reducing greenhouse gases. Raise community awareness of the implications of climate change and its current and future impact in the district, blah, blah, blah. Monitoring the following, so sustainability plan, emissions reduction plan, and SDC and district climate change adaptation plan. And promote the importance and resilience and need to adapt infrastructure and development to meet the additional demands of more frequent extreme weather events. Those are our responsibilities. Sam.
A couple of things. One is in the terms of reference is our meetings and how we meet. Not meeting in the big room, but trying to have conversations with a smaller number of people in an environment that endears itself more to conversation and to being able to bring in externals to this group as well. It's been felt in this as a trial to see how it goes and talk to the chairs of each of the committees to hold them in here to begin with. It's not a very publicly accessible room, so that's one thing to consider. But is much more conducive to, I think, the type of conversation we want to have in the big room is. Also looking at whether we could have meetings around the district, depending on if there's particular topics or things we want to have. There's no reason this group couldn't be somewhere else as well. So there's something to look at. The delegations that sit within here, I wonder whether we want to have delegated the ability to sign off council submissions on climate change and sustainability related matters, so that we don't, well, at the moment there's often some retrospective nature to our endorsement post us all seeing it through email, but we could have that all endorsed before they go to government. I think would be good, and this committee would provide a route to be able to do that. And I wonder whether there's any other delegations that would be important in Bob thinking about any particular reporting or work streams that you think will come here, that this wouldn't just be a conduit of bringing it to council the following week or the following month, but actually you could get decisions here if that was required. Is there any need for any of that?
The big one might be around the biodiversity work plan. So there is going to be a working group created, which will help inform, I guess, that 3-year work plan, which will feed into that long-term plan. But there would be that work plan would need to come to some form of council committee to ratify.
There's one thing about the words then that we use to raise to add, and if the chairs, if we through discussion, want that to be part of our terms of reference. I think it's good. And then also our name, I think we should just get rid of the strategic priority within our name. It is that, and that's a pretty small change, but we should just know ourselves, and when it's written, this is the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee.
Lydia.
I was just wondering, under responsibilities, I noticed that the biodiversity strategy is missing from that, and do we need to add that in there?
Yeah, so that's probably where saying the same before, that's probably where another bullet point will need to be added is around about
Because we have
directing and approving the biodiversity work plan along those lines.
because it has key plans for council and the wider district in it, with sustainability plan, emissions reduction, climate change adaptation plan.
So I think we could add a bullet point with biodiversity.
The biodiversity strategy work plan.
Yep. Therese, have you got? Yep, very good. Thank you.
Can I ask on this? Do we want them as delegations to this group so that we can just approve them here, or to not to like speed things up and keep things moving, and that's why this group was here, or do we just want to be informed about them?
No, I think we want to be working on them. It means that this will have to go back to, these have to go back to council to get approved.
Yep.
Again anyway, so yeah, we'll put
So
it in.
Section 3 we need to change because at the moment
Yep.
there's no delegated decision making, so we'd have to
Oh, okay, yeah,
update section 3.
yeah.
What are we determining that section 3 is gonna be? So
We have delegated decision-making responsibilities as opposed to no delegated.
And you might need to specify where
Yeah,
that actually
that's
sits.
fine.
So they'll be over the Sound Biodiversity work
Yeah.
plan.
Also, I would have anticipated any submissions on climate change and sustainability to central regional government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or others.
But then would that be something that we would do here, or would it be just send it back to full council to?
Do it here.
Yeah, if this is focused on climate change and sustainability, it feels narrow enough.
And sometimes they still will have to go
Yeah,
full
yeah,
council,
no,
depending on where the submission period actually
yeah,
sits
yeah.
with council meetings.
And I have a question. This is about workability rather than, and it might impact on the terms of reference, but I don't think it does. So there might be something that might cross over. So an example of this is solar for the district. And that could easily be something in the economic development portfolio or subcommittee that could also relate here, and it could have cross benefits.
Yeah.
And so does that come out in the monthly chairs meeting that you go, right, there's going to be, this committee's going to lead, but inform the other? Is that the purpose of the chairs meetings?
We haven't had a chairs meeting yet. Once we get through this first meetings, there was one planned before Christmas, and yes, that's the place that we have
So-
that conversation.
Were you envisaging, Sam, it's a good point that you've raised, Megan, us having regular chairs meetings as
Yep.
opposed, okay,
Monthly, I think, Therese, we got one. Yeah.
okay. Very good. Good point, Megan. So that's recorded, Therese? Yes. So with this, the terms of reference. So I move that we approve this with the changes that we've requested. I can do that without having seen the final.
No, I guess we need to see what the final one looks like.
Yeah, that's
Because
what
we
I'm
haven't
just
really-
wondering.
We talked about some details, but perhaps you can flesh that out and just what those allegations would be.
So you'll be striking out the sentence as it currently stands, and there'll be something along those lines. The subcommittee will have delegated decision-making responsibilities to make decisions on submissions to regional and central government processes, and also to make decisions around the Sound Biodiversity Strategy work plan.
And can we add 3 sustainability plan, emissions reduction plan, and STC climate change adaptation plan? They're currently sitting responsibilities and actually making delegations.
Those are quite significant things, and whether you want to trust those,
sure.
they're quite large documents which will have quite a large implication on council and the district. So full council may still be appropriate for those documents.
We would still give a recommendation on those to council though. from the committee.
Yes, yes, so
Yeah,
they'll still
for
come to this committee for guidance, for recommendation to help shape them before they get to full council, but the actual adoption of the document probably which still sit with full council.
But it may be worth that, once those plans are in place, that the following action plans from that can then come to.
Okay.
Like the biodiversity strategy, so effectively the biodiversity strategy is the action plan which can be made decision here.
Yeah.
So there'll be a sustainability action plan, there'll be a climate change adaptation action plan, which comes out of those bodies of work.
So as long as you've got the wording down, then yeah, that makes sense. We can.
So probably a third bullet point there would be around decision-making responsibilities over action plans that fall out of the sustainability and climate change work program.
So everyone in favour, all those in favour with that, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So for that part, we've still got. So we've got now the adopting of the council standing orders, the council code of conduct. So those two are basically things we've already adopted as council, full council. So anyone maybe just to move those two together, that we accept those. Phil and second Lydia, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against, carried. And we've spoken about the meeting schedule, so we're happy with having it bi-monthly as meetings for now. So that meeting schedule we'll be looking at. So so I will move that. Seconder.
I think second, can I just say something about this one?
Okay.
As we have the meeting schedule, just for us at our next meeting, I suppose, is to think about what our work plan is for those 4 meetings that we're going to have next year. So there'll be a reporting cycle, and it'll be good to know what's coming. But I think we want to think about, we've set this committee up because there's some specific work that well, you have raised and council has raised, and there is the opportunity to bring in some external parties to some of these conversations too. So if we know what our work plan is, we can think about who the right people are for that extra external.
No, and that's good. Considering the time frame we've got now of this committee is less than a year before the next election. So focusing on trying to get a work plan, it's good you're saying that, Sam, because get a work plan up and running and to be able to then be effective through those meetings that we've got left. Thank you. I did, yeah, so we passed that.
I'm maybe the second.
I second it. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. So I think that's pretty much. Yep, that's it. So additional, I sent through, sorry, it was late, a chairperson's report to the committee. That was just for more for information. It's similar to what I've done for the previous Planning and Climate Change Committee, and it's got some events that are coming up. It's in the middle of the public transport hearings for Greater Christchurch Partnership. It just had the first day on Monday gone, got the next day on next Monday, and then in deliberations, I think the following week or week after, from memory. There's, yeah, and just other things in this report for.
What page, sorry, was that on
I emailed it through yesterday.
yesterday?
Yep. So as I said, it was just for information. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone's got later about that. So
Move that we
move my-
receive it.
Yep, move my report and you second it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against, carried. So do our closing.
Just,
Thank you.
sorry, before you close the call, can I just add, on Monday, we launched the Selwyn.
I wrote that in there, but I didn't
Yeah.
highlight it. I should have.
Just to say, it was great. And it was really good having Rod Carr there and being able to talk to so much of the science and the challenge that we've got in change.
So was that recorded? Because obviously I couldn't.
Yeah.
There was a camera facing it the whole time, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
well, I think-
Yeah.
Been with it.
Yeah, because I'd like to hear, because I've heard him speak a few times.
Yeah, we
He
can
is,
put on
it's
YouTube,
really
right?
good to listen
You can give us
to.
10 to stuff like-
Is
Yeah.
it gonna be shared? How's it?
I believe it was recorded. I'm not sure what we're doing with it, but I'll figure out how to get that. His speech at least shared around.
Yeah, challenge.
Yeah, he's really, really great speaker and just, yeah, I always learn something each time I listen to him.
Well, he did articulate kind of like a work plan for council,
Yeah.
a three-part work plan.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
From a climate change perspective.
Yeah.
And he
You want
wasn't,
Sam's one as well?
Just Rod's speech.
Fine.
Just Rod's speech.
you've got his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that doesn't sound like it was a good speech then.
My speech is the same, I think, everywhere. So you can just copy one of the other ones and pop it.
Very good. So, una here, oi. I still haven't got to where it was, but anyway, at least I remember that. So we're on to. So now we just continue on to workshop,
Workshop, yeah.
and it's still streamed or,
Just,
It can be public.
yeah,
The public can stream it, but the public can't attend the meeting or they can't come and ask to speak.
They can attend these meetings.
And they can ask to speak, can't they? Do? So-
Yep.
Okay.
this is where we need to, I think it's a good point you're raising, Elizabeth, because we really need to think about, as you just mentioned, Sam, about how we set up the rooms and stuff like that. Yeah. Hmm? Yeah. No, that would be good. That is a good option. Okay, so you're leading this?
Leave it, Tim prepared the slide pack, or maybe probably Ben and Andy prepared the slide pack, so I'll try my best. We do have the experts in the room as well, so maybe if they want to come to the table.
Yeah, Ben,
Yeah.
Andy?
come on.
Come up.
First couple seats.
Yeah. A few items on the agenda. So the first one's around the biodiversity strategy targets. So the biodiversity strategy was for my council, I think this year, and the first time council has had a biodiversity strategy. So a direction of how we're actually going to go about doing biodiversity within Selwyn. So it's a pretty awesome thing to have. So one of the key things that comes out of that is work plan, which is aligned with the 3-year LTP cycle. So a working group of both council members, external experts and Runanga will be formed in order to help inform various actions that will be within that 3-year period. And they'll go to an LTP saying, right, these are the actions agreed. These are the funding streams that need to go with it. Do you want to progress or not progress it? Andy, do you want to expand on that a wee bit more?
Yeah, so we'll be looking to have our first working group meeting in February. Denise has been working, she'll be leading it, Denise Ford will be leading it. And she's had been discussing with Total Moodle about who the representatives or who have been put forward by the Kaitianga portfolio there. So that's been identified, we've largely got the members identified. So it's mostly the group is made up of people that have interest or an expertise in biodiversity, as you said, Rod, and that actually work in the district and have some good knowledge there. So, you know, we're really hoping that they'll add to the corridor about what we can do. And then we would like to think that they may well pick up and champion some projects, as well as support the mahi that we're already doing, and also recognising that, you know, some of the mahi we do is we have to do this. You know, we have statutory responsibilities around that as well. So, but we'd like to think there's room for them to pick up and champion some projects and put them forward. and then we could tease out or work out what possible budgets might look like that then feed into the LTP process. So we've got, given the next LTP process is a little while away, we've got some time to settle the group in and work out what we're going to work through in the next couple of annual plan years, and then be all well organised for the next LTP.
Is there room on this strategy group for there to be a member of the community? Obviously, I've got the runanga, but just a member of the community in general to bring that perspective in, because that's obviously clearly what we hear a lot is there's sort of groups that have got a particular focus, but it doesn't always address the concerns of the wider community that are impacted.
Absolutely, yeah, we don't particularly see it as a closed group at all, so.
So how could one put themselves forward on this?
Maybe
Is it recommendation?
if they were to email me and or Denise Ford, and I'll let her know that'll probably be coming.
Okay, cool.
Is there a terms of reference for that working group? I feel like
Yes,
you're right.
we've developed one,
Okay.
and so we would have the group look at the draft. But at the first meeting, but would it be helpful to share it with this group? Matty?
Thanks. Are there elected members on this group? Is that Malcolm and Sophie?
Yes, where did that end?
They were on the group to help build the biodiversity strategy in the
Yeah.
first place, so this is a new group. I'm not too sure where that.
I'm sure, Malcolm is. Ben and I just briefly discussed it before about whether it would make sense that a member of this group potentially would sit in the working group as well, just to provide that connection.
Yeah, that
So-
makes sense.
So when we adopted the strategy, the working group was, it says in here, was to comprise iwi, agency representatives and stakeholders. Yeah, so when we're talking about a member of the public, are we talking about anybody who falls within kind of that broad mix?
Or that'd be a
Stakeholder.
Sure. No, directly impacted.
You could have a member of, say, Ellesmere Sustainable Ag, which is
Yeah.
a stakeholder and a community member.
Yeah.
Does someone here want to be the link person?
Maybe.
Just checking, Denise, so you haven't been told who the Taumitu reps are yet?
Oh, no, we haven't. Denise got an email this week.
Okay,
I'll
Let you
just have
know.
to go back to them.
that'll be helpful, thank you. And then my other question was, it's great that there's going to be projects that might need funding from council for long-term plans, but will this group also look at where there might be potential opportunities for external funding?
Yeah.
And not that there's a lot coming from central government at the moment, but that,
Yeah.
things could change.
Yes.
So is that part of the
Absolutely,
mandate, the
yeah.
scope?
And that's something we've always tended to work on, is whether it's with the Rakai Gorge Manawa Rakai Fund or the Central Plains Water Fund, and sort of championing those funds and building them, roughly into the margins of our work program as well. And I'd like to think that when this group champions a project, that it makes it a stronger case for funding wherever we're looking for that as well. So,
I guess taking that to the next step as well, the economic development strategy would have to be dovetailed into that as well.
Probably more of an overseer side, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
In terms of funding
Yeah,
and stuff?
that's
or-
No, in terms of if council is going to start to look at supporting a particular funding project, as you say, and the project is something that is has to all the bits will have to line up. It's only half a thought at the moment, but the economic development side would have to be the direction under the priorities from that group as well would have to line up with the priorities from the biodiversity group. Which is no problem.
I think it's more that if we can get the people, those stakeholders, he can,
Yeah.
if they're all there saying, here's a project we're doing, here's the elements that we're
Yeah.
contributing to that, and then be able to seek that funding to support that, so
Yeah,
that we get
yeah,
a better outcome than just the little bits that we're
Yeah,
putting in
that-
there.
that
So-
makes sense.
So
That
that's,
part of it makes
that'd be the
sense.
key
Yeah.
bit for that. And then-
So,
Do we apply for our own internal funding? or
Sorry, can I
external
just-
funding only?
just going back to, so who are the makeup of this committee? Can we, so we've just got a bit of a, I'm not clear on who,
Of the working group.
yeah,
So, yeah, agency, or mana whenua.
Yep.
Some agency staff. So Doc and ECAN, and then also, organisations are represented like QE2. And Te Ara Kakariki. So, organisations that have an active interest in biodiversity in the district, and are playing active role.
so is it location based? We're just looking across the district. I'm thinking more like the ones like, Waihora Ellesmere Trust and stuff like that. They're obviously focuses one area as opposed to district wide.
Yeah, again, there could be a case made for it. I guess, we just need to be mindful of the size of the group and
Yeah,
at what point
exactly.
it becomes unwieldy or not. But, you know, I don't, there's, you know, certainly would be, open to suggestions about any others that we've missed. So I'll bring I'll email the committee, the current list that we've got, and then definitely add suggestions on.
No, that would be good, because otherwise there's a real fine balance between having the right people in the room and then having too many people in the room, or not having enough representation, and that's really, hence my question about how you were going about. Sorry, Elizabeth, what were you?
I was gonna
Wonder.
say, so you're talking about applying for funding. Will this biodiversity strategy mean that will potentially this group will apply for council's funding, or are you talking about just simply external funding only?
It would be more of a case of creating I guess if you looked at a discrete project, that they would, that project for it to go forward towards some LTP funding would have to have, you know, the right outcomes and the right rationale for it. But then it would be up to the staff, to biodiversity staff, to build the case and to look into the details and work on the details of a particular project and what sort of funds that might need. And then that would come through in the LTP process.
Lydia, did you want to ask a question?
I was contemplating whether it's the right forum to talk about this, but then I thought that actually it's probably a conflict of interest for me, and it should actually be noted, which I don't think will be on my normal register.
Do you want to do it? We can add it now if you want.
Which is the chair of the Upper Waikirikiri Catchment Collective. And so I was going to note that working with catchment groups could be a good idea because they have outcomes that are aligned with council. So for instance, the number 2 priority for the catchment group is increasing Indigenous biodiversity by 5% in the Southern Foothills. And so I guess there's a way to work together with some of the funding that is already available for targets.
What we have discussed as well is some instances where, you know, there's no reason why some people can't come and join meetings at certain times. We might also want to ask some experts in certain areas to come in and provide information as well. So I think there's probably a reasonable amount of flexibility there as well.
So we ran the hearings, then we adopted the strategy. The strategy has some really clear goals and an implementation plan. So it clearly says the things that we're going to do over the next, 10 years, right? So that's really clear. Where the money will come from, this is how and please correct me if I'm wrong. If it's already a statutory responsibility of this council and it's a function of this council to deliver, then it makes perfect sense that it'll be going to the long-term plan and saying, these are the things that this council must provide. Here are the things that are mandatory, here are the things that are optional, and depending on how you want to prioritise your money here. And there'll be some of it that even though they are our statutory responsibilities, there might be opportunities for funding. If you just think about what happened after COVID, there was all this money for Jobs for Nature, for example. If there's buckets of money available elsewhere, that's when we'd go, right, here's an opportunity. But then if you've got particular groups that are coming in and going, well, here's ours and how does it line up? They might go like this, but they might actually be separate, but it doesn't mean that you can't support each other and work across all of those stakeholders that have an interest in biodiversity. The part that I wasn't lining up is how it would actually connect into economic development. And what I had actually understood was if there's going to be some type of, like just like the solar thing, for example, right? That means the chairs get together and go, here's the things that are in that we might have a little bit of crossover in, or you just need to have line of sight in. But otherwise, if it's this committee that's responsible for this strategy, then we would be kind of leading the bid up to LTP. Have I understood this? Is that
It would
make
be
sure I'm on the
my
right page?
understanding as well. Yeah.
Right, okay, and then it's just making sure everybody knows if there's crossover, how it falls in. Okay, got it.
An example of a potential crossover from the economic development strategy, and this one is where the economic development strategy might want to create a nature trail or something like that to boost tourism.
Yeah, right.
Therefore,
Yeah.
that filters into a biodiversity project at the same time.
Yeah, there's a commercial outcome.
It's a bit of a handshake.
Economic development outcome.
There might be ways of this through the economic development work that it could be some way of raising funds. Yeah, so if there's an investment that's worth making, then it's maybe an investment worth making with some external partners as opposed to council and internal partners. So,
And if economic development, I know I wasn't at the economic development
Yeah.
committee,
I don't know.
but if you were going for external funding, then it would be for your kaupapa, which is economic opportunities,
Yeah.
commercial or economic. So either public good from an economics going to create jobs and
Yeah.
change GDP for the community as opposed to a biodiversity outcome. So
yeah,
That's
but
different.
if there's a project that's worth being endorsed by this group.
Yeah.
And it needs funding of say XYZ dollars, then if it's something that can go into a long-term plan, it might also be the case that some of our partners that we've developed through the economic development strategy
like
may
a
be
partnership.
interested. Yeah,
Got
partnership.
it.
Yeah.
Good. That's really helpful. Thank you.
And that's
So I
good
was
to
I'm sorry to
clarify
explain
that.
that way. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
got it.
Megan, that's good you asked questions, clarify that.
But that's where it makes everything's so joined up. Which, yeah.
Cool. So.
On the other plans then, an emissions plan will be drafted and we'll have staff on board in January to help kind of take ownership of that and bring that back here for discussion to then be signed off. And that would also a sustainability plan is drafted, somewhat drafted roughly to be able to come to this, and that person can pick that up and bring that through here as well at that stage too. And the other one is the adaptation one, which is down in the LTP for 26, 27 at the moment. So that will follow on from those other two. So that will be some of the key bits for this group to look at in the new year to go through those drafts and have a discussion. We just want to get that staff member on board, get them owning this process and feeling like it's theirs to be able to come back on that.
Just to clarify, the adaptation plan, Ben, is that more of a self-interested council focus of how council adapts to climate change versus how the district adapts to climate change?
I could be both. I think hopefully we can learn about how to approach adaptation for our area, and that could start to tie into some of the area plan work we're doing as well, and then also flow through into how we start to adapt as well. And that may be touched on in the sustainability elements as well when we're looking at the sustainability of our infrastructure. That may be the adaptation in of itself too. We'll just see where we get to at the end of it.
There's going to be a lot of crossover from all of those work programs and also into the housing urban development program as well.
Yeah.
Have you got a
Cool.
question, Elizabeth?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Ben, I missed that. When did you say we're gonna have the emissions reduction plan in front of us?
So
Roughly?
hopefully that's next year's plan, so it should
Any
be,
urban
I haven't got the staff member on board, so hopefully it'll be early on, because they are kind of largely been done, there's been a lot of work done in the LCP 24 work around emissions and stuff, so it's really about how we're going to achieve that, so then I'll be workshopping it here for sign off, through next
Because
week.
it's
So, yeah.
continuing the work that Keith's
Yeah,
did, and so there is already body of work there. It's
Yeah.
just formulating it to where it.
I think the emissions one would be first up, so maybe that'll be early next year, yeah.
Mhm.
Start workshopping.
I have one question, and I didn't see it falling directly under the biodiversity strategy, but it very well could. And that is implementation of the NPSIB. So is there a work stream for that, or is it all in the biodiversity strategy?
Yes, some of the actions in the strategy relate directly to the NPSIB and directions given out in the NPSIB.
Okay, and so there's no gaps that we need to go, right, here's something that we actually need, we've been directed by central government that we need to do under the NPSIB. There's no gaps, it's all under that.
Don't think so,
Okay,
but it doesn't mean to say we shouldn't reanalyze that and double check.
and
There'll also be a district plan response as well for the EPSIB
Yes.
to bring it fully in line, particularly around the SNA mapping, but that's all subject to potential change through phase 2 of the RMA reform.
yes,
So we don't actually have any budget within our LTP for that mapping program because of we're going to go map things just for the criteria to change, and then we have to remap because that's potentially upward of a $3 million project to do that.
that's really helpful, because that was going to be my next question, is as central government keep kind of changing what it looks like, how are we going to respond to that? If we have a strategy, will we just be going, right, we need to update our strategy? Or we still want those things in there because they're priorities to us. We just might not be funding, saying from a priority funding perspective, we need to do the must do's ahead of the options. Is that how we're dealing with it?
Yeah, very much goes from a requirement to say have 10% cover within urban spaces to very much this is our aspirational goal that council and the district wants for our urban spaces.
I guess the district plan gives us quite a lot of certainty about what we need to do. And we do have a monitoring component in the as one of the actions, or more than one of the actions in the strategy. So if we are monitoring and what's going on and you know, where necessary enforcing relative to district plan rules, then it's pretty much laid out, and we will roughly get the same outcomes as if we had an SNA project anyway.
So last question. So does our district plan, and look, I should have checked this myself, but so the district plan will have some framework around mapped SNAs. Does it have some rules around unmapped SNAs, like some objectives and policies, so that when people are applying for a resource consent, they're actually having to look at a policy framework for unmapped?
Yep, so there is SNA protection within the district plan, regardless if it's in schedule or not. So
Right.
the protection exists, it doesn't necessarily have to be mapped and scheduled.
Perfect, thank you.
And almost all activities involving the clearance of vegetation is now restricted discretionary under the current plan.
Right.
It's quite a narrow, for it to be permitted, it's quite a narrow, very narrow.
Very much
Sorry.
putting fence lines or something like that.
Yeah,
So can you explain what you mean by that?
So if you were to need to build a shed or put in a new fence line, some of those things are permitted. But compared to the previous district plan, there's a lot less things that are permitted, and now they become restricted discretionary, which means that we need to overlay a number of discretionary criteria to determine whether they need a resource consent or not.
Because of SNAs.
No,
It's not
just
improved, but
So you got SNAs and general Indigenous biodiversity as well. So SNAs are the top echelon, the really significant stuff, which is really high thresholds to do anything on. Then you've just got Indigenous vegetation, just as it might be on the paddock or on the high country. And you're very limited on your ability to clear that as a permitted activity. But if you do need a consent, then as Andy's saying, there are certain criteria which you would need to meet in order to get a consent for that. And there's also non-compliant type activities as well, like a clear fell of a paddock or something like that.
So in terms of a layperson finding out what's on the list for the Indigenous vegetation, is it something readily available on our updated website?
This is also in the district plan.
Yeah.
And we are actually developing a pamphlet for that as well to try and help demystify it, or, you know, to make it easy, more accessible as well, and explain what's happening. There is also a new element of biodiversity management plans as well that landowners and managers have the opportunity to do, and then were they to apply for a resource consent, they would put an agreed to biodiversity management plan in with the resource consent application as a way of streamlining it. There's information on that under the rules in the plan, the ecosystem rules.
Oh, thank you. So just conscious of time now. So we've gone through, pretty much covered off most of the slides. Climate change, the draft emissions plan mentioned, climate change policy. We've got climate change LTP targets in there, which is good.
Which will form the
were.
backbone of that
Yes.
reduction plan.
Yep. Talked about the draft sustainability plan again.
Just before we move off the targets, the LTP targets, let's ask you a quick question. How are we tracking? On the,
Everyone's working with that.
So as part of the key will be the emissions plan is how we are to achieve.
okay,
those
right,
goals.
okay. So I've asked questions about 6 months to.
So we
Yeah.
now have an annual budget where we never actually existed before to have an annual emissions inventory.
Yep.
Of the organisation done carried out on a per annum basis.
Yep.
So we've got a baseline now.
Yep.
Now we can do that on a
Yep,
per annum.
yep.
The
And we'll also-
inventory is finished.
So for every year, we'll get a greenhouse gas inventory of council emissions.
Yeah, working on the district one as well, for that, so we can understand where.
I think it costs around about $15,000 to do that on a per annum.
Cool. Sorry, just conscious of time because we've got
Yeah.
another meeting starting at 2. So we've got other items. So these are stuff that we started with the Planning and Climate Change Committee that I see that was still relevant to continue on with this committee. So this is on. I can't even see what pages. It's the last page of that.
132.
So other items, so e-bike rebate schemes, this was something that looked at when Calvin was here. So nothing more has been done about that, so.
We wrote to the minister and I met with him last week before maybe, and the answer was no. So
Yeah, just that, and there's also is there an incentive scheme for staff to?
No, that's what I was making, sorry, I should
Oh,
have
okay.
clarified it, it's an incentive scheme, but that's good to hear what you've said, because there are workplace incentive schemes for
Who
Yeah,
funds those?
I don't know, but we don't have enough time at the moment to look at that. So just go.
Going back on the rest of the work, I think maybe tied to some of the sustainability plan. work and
Yes,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
so the tree canopy thing, and that's good. Elizabeth, that you brought up about that today as well. So that's the blue-green network stuff as part of our committee on that side of things. The actual anything to do with more urban development and the actual housing side is obviously in another committee, but there is that crossover. We're talking about crossovers between committees.
How far away are we from having that tree canopy work finalised?
So we did that work with Manaki Whenua about the ecosystem
Yeah.
stuff, and part of the area plan work, we're looking at the canopy cover work as well. So we should have that to inform the area plan work. Once that's built, we can look at that here, and then that will kind of inform how we do that, the rest of the other work from there. Yeah.
So the third one down, so that and this is where the link between the different things is. Accessibility, I saw that it's got a sustainable element to it, but that's actually better sitting, and this is with, talking with Sam, is definitely better sitting with the urban development side. Obviously, any work outside of a developed area would actually sit, come back to us if there was, I mean, the links between towns, I think we were looking at a scale like that would actually sit with this committee because it's broader than just an urban development thing. World Car Free Day. So this is an annual event, a worldwide annual event on 22nd of September each year. We're trying to get something organised last year, but it was too short notice really to do anything proper. This year it was on a weekend, but next year it's on a Monday. So put that in our diary to actually have something done as council on this day. And adaptation plan. So we've already talked about that. I think, is there anything else anyone wants to bring up before we close our meeting?
Just one thing that was around training and thinking about the RMA changes, but for the RMA that we've got now and the skills that you've got, Megan, as a commissioner, and Nicole, you've got as a commissioner and experienced in hearings and knowledge of that system. It could be quite good for the other members of this committee to consider for next year, thinking about the Making Good Decisions course. I know that with RMA changing, things will change, but the skills, I think that gives you on the basics of RMA, but also hearings, natural justice, thinking about some other things that would be good crossover with the rest of council.
Is it
for the three of you to consider.
Is it my ID thing?
No, it's
No,
not.
it's
EVP
different.
thing.
Yeah.
Making Good Decisions run by WSP.
2 days, pre-assignment, post-assignment.
Reasonable amount of work, but
I thought it was, you to do assignment before, we said do readings before.
No, pre and post.
Pre-reading?
Yeah, and
Brief work.
it's about a 350-page document you read, but then you do an assessment for your pre-reading.
Oh, yeah.
15 questions.
About 20 hours worth of work max before and after.
Mhm. And you get marked and stuff on it.
Fine.
Just an idea, throw that in.
And
Yep.
those of you who've done it, it's a good thing to do.
It's good. I did it. Yep.
You did it first, yes.
Just as Sam said, it's just good for general decision making.
Yeah, you're right.
First
Yeah.
one is the renewals need a bit of work, but the first one's fine, helpful. Are we on record still?
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll get that feedback directly.
Sorry, EVP.
Very good. So, any other business? To close the meeting, it's 1:02, and you have me starting at 2 in the next room. Great, thank you. That was
Thanks, Nicole.
a good meeting, good last meeting.
So, does this sound relevant, Sam?